what is my reaction to this? Now, what do I mean by this? Not too long ago, Dominic, who by the way is the founder of Dfinity, even though nothing I say is financial advice, Dominic posted not too long ago in a post that I just want to quote, right? He says, to confirm, there are now more people building on ICP, or should I say they're on a computer, at any one time than on every other blockchain in existence combined. Again, I quote that. That was the post he made. He also continues by saying how Caffeine is still in the beta phase, basically. And again, Caffeine AI, by the way, is a self-running apps platform. Now, when I take a look at something like this, is there any way for me to 100% confirm this? I personally don't think I could. I think it's going to be pretty difficult, pretty complicated. However, at the same time, if Dominic makes a post like this, I'm just going to take a look at it because, of course, being the founder of Dfinity, he, of course, knows, things regarding this space, which is why when he makes a statement like this, even though I have no way of confirming it 100%, I still find it pretty interesting, even though, hypothetically, I'll never be able to verify it 100% in my case. However, when I take a look at something like this is pretty interesting because in a hypothetical scenario where this could be assumed as maybe being a hypothetical possibility, my kind of reaction is the Internet Computer, first of all, is not the most popular project out there. Like, for instance, Solana is way more popular. We take a look at the BNB chain. We take a look at Ethereum, right? I mean, a bunch of things are more popular than ICP. I mean, ICP is not even a top 30 project as of right now in terms of market cap. That just, again, hypothetically from what I can see. So if, let's say, a top 50 project is experiencing something like this, I do find it pretty interesting because it's not something I would originally expect, right? Maybe if someone said that this was the case for Ethereum and all this, sure, I'd believe it, right? Hypothetically, maybe. If someone said maybe it's Solana, who knows, but when I take a look at something like the Internet Computer, it is pretty interesting to see that. And I think it maybe kind of shows maybe, I guess, what developers are seeing when it comes to the Internet Computer. Because when it comes to the fundamentals of the Internet Computer, we're kind of beginning to see the shift, right? Where when it comes to Dfinity, they really have this focus of wanting to run things on chain when it comes to the Internet Computer. Other projects out there, they don't really do that in some cases, at least to a large extent, or to an extent in which we see the focus of Dfinity trying to do that when it comes to, again, the Internet Computer. And why don't I think that some other projects could necessarily do that? Well, it's because supposedly, from what I can see, right, some projects out there, they're not really built from the ground up to kind of handle stuff like that. So, like, for instance, if we take a look at being able to run AI models entirely on chain, again, some projects out there, they're not necessarily, I think, designed for allowing for stuff like that. It's like, for instance, if I'm trying to run a marathon with Timberland boots, I think maybe hypothetically I wouldn't do that because I would assume it's not built for that, right? I mean, if I was trying to run a marathon, of course I'm going to be using running shoes or something like that. It's a bit of a different kind of design. Much like in the case of the Internet Computer, when compared to some other projects out there, I feel like from the ground up, it's designed a little bit differently. It's like, for instance, if I'm trying to build a building that is 10 stories tall versus 2 stories tall, the foundation, of course, is hypothetically going to be different. So then the thing is, for me, I like the design of the Internet Computer and I like what I'm seeing just overall. So when I also take a look at, for instance, I think something that could arguably allow for more developers to kind of hypothetically maybe look into something like the Internet Computer, or I think something that could, at least in my mind, showcase why we're seeing this sort of activity when it comes to their computer, I think it's because ICP supports multiple programming languages. Some other projects out there by design, they're not really kind of caring about this type of stuff, but I wonder why, because not every single developer, for instance, is going to prefer a certain programming language. Like, okay, when we take a look at Motoko, Motoko is the language that has been designed by Dfinity, but not every single developer may want to learn something like that, and not every single developer may want to use that. For instance, we take a look at how supported through Canister development kits, something like TypeScript, Python, C++, Solidity, which allows for EVM-based smart contracts. EVM stands for Ethereum Virtual Machine. However, even besides that, we take a look at also JavaScript. So when it comes to this, again, being supported through canister development kits, I think it just brings more kind of hypothetical options for the intercomputer in terms of developers, because who knows, maybe a developer is already kind of preferring a certain, you know, programming language. They might not just want to shift their focus, right? Maybe they're already familiar with that. They just want to continue on building. So I like that kind of focus when it comes to this. I think Dfinity so far, arguably, I think that they're doing a pretty okay job, I think, in terms of the intercomputer, in terms of the fundamentals. Now, in terms of the price, it's a totally different case because, for instance, I mean, when I take a look at ICP currently at $3.50, I mean, clearly it's not doing the best, but I'm saying in terms of the fundamentals, I do like what I'm seeing. Now, personally, we saw that kind of movement, right, when it comes to ICP to around $9 not too long ago, which was back in November, so basically a month ago. Even though that happened, I feel like, sure, I mean, I was pretty happy to see that, but if we take a look at ICP just back in December of 2024, it was nearly $15. So even if ICP went to around $9, it's still like way lower than where it was like basically around a year ago from right now. But why am I not necessarily like that concerned? Because first of all, even though I am not telling anyone to do anything, I am trying to dollar cost average once a month. So if let's say hypothetically I'm taking a look at levels of ICP at being around $3.50, which, I haven't really seen, right? Ever since kind of back in October this year. However, if I take a look at even further than that, right? When was the previous time before that I saw ICP at around $3.50? It was back in 2023, actually. So if I could hypothetically dollar cost average maybe at 2023 levels at almost 2026, would I be complaining about that? I don't know if I necessarily would, but that is just my perspective. However, when it comes to ICP, because again, it's kind of had a big pullback, it is around 29 times lower than $100. So, it's down by hypothetically quite a lot. But again, I am quite essentially, the way you take a look at it, kind of dollar cost averaging back at 2023 levels. So I don't know if I'm necessarily going to be too disappointed with that. But even besides that, I just wanted to make an updated video real quick when it comes to your computer and just talk about the recent statement, I would say, or the recent post that Dominic made. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. That's my thoughts right now when it comes to your computer. I want to say thank you for watching. I hope y'all have a nice day. It's Willie the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.